Hi, I'm Joe, and this is Joe on Yoga, essentially a channel of videos of me talking about all different things related to yoga. Today we're going to talk about Ahimsa. Now that's a word that is made up of two parts. Ah means without, and Himsa means violence. It's a Sanskrit word, and it is a part of the yamas, the yoga yamas, which are essentially a series of moral guidelines, which as people, as practitioners of yoga, as teachers of yoga, we can apply to the way that we not just live our lives as individuals, but as how we relate to the world as a whole. So it's a guideline, it's like a sort of set of rules as to how we should live. Now, Ahimsa is the first in a series of 5. And it means to behave in such a way that we are not involving ourselves in any violence whatsoever. And so I think it's really important that when we approach any of these teachings in the yoga system or any other philosophical systems, to approach them with a sense of deep consideration or mindfulness. And that means looking far beyond ourselves as individuals. It's very easy for us to get caught up in thinking in such a way that we are doing things that are not harmful towards ourselves, and often we can overlook the harm that we might be doing to others. So I have heard occasionally people talk about doing Ahimsa for the self, and that basically means looking after yourself. And while I don't think there's anything wrong with that per se, the problem is that we might be overlooking the harm that we're doing to others. So Ahimsa is very much a consideration that we should have about how our actions as an individual person are contributing far beyond where we are immediately in our existence, in the moment that we're in. So looking beyond and thinking about all the repercussions that this may have in the future, but also where were the origins of whatever it is that we're relating with. And so typically you will find that lots of practitioners of yoga have chosen to not eat animals. And that's because they can see that the consumption of animals or animal products has led to and has a direct link to suffering, oppression, the restriction of freedom for those animals that are being eaten or consumed, whether it's their body parts or their secretions. And so that is a good example, a very simple example of Ahimsa in action. But we can also take it further, and we can think about, if we're buying a piece of clothing, for example, where are the origins of the fabrics that it has been made from? Where did those fabrics come from? How were they obtained? How were they manufactured? Was there any oppression or exploitation in the labor system? Has the transportation of those clothes caused some kind of environmental impact? So it's about looking deeply, and it's about seeing the link that we have to everything around us. So that's a sort of a simple example of, or two simple examples of Ahimsa in action. Now, how do we choose to apply it to our daily lives? Obviously depends on how thoroughly we want to look at it, and also how truthful we want to be with ourselves. So I think one of the difficult things that happens to people, to human beings, is that when we are born and as we go through our lives as children, we often adopt the behaviors that we see around us. When I say often, I think it's the link is fairly obvious. It's almost like we're going through a system of conditioning, cultural conditioning, but also conditioning from our parents or our guardians or the people that looked after us, our friends, our peers, as we were growing up. And so we tend to do what others do, the people that we're around. We tend to copy, we tend to emulate, we tend to replicate or repeat those behaviors. And when we come together as groups, sometimes the behaviors that we might have adopted could be causing harm to others. But because we've done them for generations or for years and years and years, we may have come to a point where we have decided that we are going to consider our behavior as normal, natural, and necessary. And when this happens, it means that perhaps we become, rather than openly mindful, we become a bit more constricted, a bit more fixed or definite in the way that our opinions are. So rather than being able to be open in a very mindful way, rather than considering the connection that our actions have with the world around us, we simply decide to do one of three things. We either distort the way that we're seeing things so that we feel more comfortable about it, if we perhaps have tuned into the fact that it might not be ideal, that it could be causing some problems or some pain for someone somewhere. Secondly, we justify our actions. So we say, well, it might be necessary to eat a certain food because it's required. We need to, and you can think about big food campaigns to make children eat certain foods, and often these food campaigns are funded by big food producers or parts of the industry. So we either distort or we justify, and then the third thing that we do is we deny that our actions are having any negative implication whatsoever, and they have any negative impact whatsoever. And those three mind states, denial, cognitive distortion, or justification, and that consideration that what we're doing is normal, natural, and necessary, keep us very fixed, and they prevent us from progressing and really exploring things with a view to perhaps making changes that will not just be better for us, that could also be better for others, other sentient beings, regardless of who they are, the people, the animals, regardless of what they look like, where they live, what their interests are. Instead, we enter this kind of fixed state. So to get out of that, I think it's important to be as mindful, as open and expansive as we can with our thinking. But it's also important to really consider, what is it that we are engaging in that is causing harm? So if you'd like to practice Ahimsa, if you'd like to introduce that into your daily life, you can ask yourself a very simple question. Is what I'm doing necessary? Who is affected by the choices that I'm engaging in? And what are the impacts? What's actually happening if I'm choosing to consume certain products? I hope that's a useful introduction to Ahimsa. If you would like to comment, please comment on this video. Don't know where the like and subscribe things are. This is only the second video that I'm posting, but please, if you like this channel, if you'd like to see more videos like this, then click subscribe, click like, maybe share it with your friends. Okay, thank you, and have a nice day.